aliens or devils? We have already noted several instances connecting unknown beings with the theft of agricultural products. Lavender plants, grapes, potatoes seem to have been taken away with equal dexterity by the mysterious little men. And story after story, from North to South America, from Europe, the creatures are seen flying from their fleeing from their shiny craft, picking up plants, taking off again before amazed witnesses. Such behavior is well designed to make the investigators of such stories assume that the visitors are gathering samples with all the care and precision of seasoned exobiologists. Are we not, after all, designing robots that will accomplish the preliminary analysis of the Martian flora when the first rockets reached that planet? In a few cases, the visitors even take the time to interview the witnesses at length concerning agricultural techniques. Such was the case in the landing that, curiously enough, took place in Tioga City, New York, on the very day of the Socorro landing. About 10 hours before Officer Zamora observed the egg-shaped, shiny object so familiar to us now. Gary T. Wilcox, a dairy farmer, was spreading fertilizer in his field. Sometime before 10 a.m., he stopped to check a field surrounded by woods, about a mile away from his barn. He wanted to see whether good conditions would allow plowing. As he approached the field, however, he saw a shiny object, which I first took to be a discarded refrigerator, then a wing tank or sonic other aircraft part. Okay. When he drew closer, he realized that the object was egg-shaped and about 20 by 16 feet. Had the appearance of durable metal. Did not look like anything he had ever seen before. He touched it. It was not hot. He observed the outdoor or hatch. He observed no door or hatch of any kind, and yet two human-like creatures suddenly appeared. They were about 4 feet tall and wore seamless clothing, with headdress and a full face hood, which did not allow Wilcox to observe any facial features. They appeared to have arms and legs. They talked to him in smooth English, but their voices did not come from their heads, as if Wilcox could tell, but from their bodies. Do not be alarmed. We have talked to people before. We are from what you people refer to as the planet Mars, they said. In spite of Gary's conviction that someone must be playing a gag on him, the strange conversation continued. And two beings were interested in fertilizer and expressed considerable interest and their use. They stated that they grow food on Mars, but that changes in the environment were creating problems, and they hope to solve by obtaining information about our agricultural techniques. Their questions were quite childish, and they appeared to have no knowledge of the subject whatever. Each was carried a tray filled with soil. When they talked about space or the ship, I had difficulty in understanding their explanations. They said they could only travel to this planet every 2 years, and they were presently using the Western Hemisphere, Wilcox reported. They explained that they landed only during daylight hours because their ship is less readily visible in daylight. And they said they were surprised that Wilcox had seen their craft. They also volunteered information about space travel. Our astronauts would not be successful, they said, because their bodies would not adapt to space conditions. Finally, they requested a bag of fertilizer, but as Gary Wilcox walked away to get it, the craft took off, disappearing from sight in very few seconds. The witness left a bag of fertilizer at the place, but the next day it was gone. A list, even incomplete, a similar cases would rapidly induce tedium. Most of the South American landings entities have been described walking away with soil samples, plants, even boulders. Everything in their behavior seems designed to make us believe in the outer space origin of these strange beings and their craft. And indeed, such instances have greatly influenced researchers who have independently concluded that UFOs are space probes sent by an extraterrestrial civilization. On November 1st, 1954, Mrs. Rosa Lottie Danelli, 40 years old, was going to the cemetery at Pagoa de Amra, Busain, near Arezzo, Italy. Sorry. A devout Italian woman. She was carrying a pot containing flowers. Her mind at the moment must have been very far indeed from science fiction speculation. And yet, what happened to her in the next minute constitutes perhaps a okay. I don't know why it's like it's just what is SLNGM guest of entire wave of, so perhaps the one of the strangest of the entire wave of 1954 incidences. As Mrs. Lotte Danelli walked past an open grassy space, she saw a vertical torpedo-shaped machine with pointed edges. a machine, in other words, shaped like two cones with common common something. I'm sorry about this. I want to read this book regardless of this typo errors because I want to. So we just got to figure out what these words mean. Two cone shaped like two cones with a common hasses. I'm trying to figure out what's missing there. Or what got. Let's say common cases. Maybe that's what it means. And the lower cone, and the lower cone was an opening through which two small scats were visible. Two small, maybe latches were visible. The craft looked metallic. It did not resemble anything the witnesses had ever seen, had seen before. From behind the object, two beings appeared. They were 3.5 to 4 feet tall. So I can figure that one out. But so maybe that's what he's trying to say. There was two small beings were visible, something like that. That's driving me mad. Anyways, they looked joyful, and their smiles displayed white and very thin teeth. They were wearing gray coveralls and reddish leather helmets, similar to those used by military drivers. They had what seemed to be a convexity at the center of their foreheads. Speaking of the incomprehensible language, the two close to the women, and they one of them took away from her the flower pot containing the flowers. Her pot containing the flowers. I don't know. It's just weird how it's like. I got to figure out what HIE means, but I think it means her. Because it's typo errors on the left side of this. Then when you get down to the right side, if I'm saying the right side is right, what are you looking at? There's none of the typos. Okay, they were aware. Okay, they're speaking in. Okay. Mrs. Loti Denelli had tried to get her property back, but the two beings ignored her and returned to their craft. The witness. The witness alerted to scream and ran away. Oh, probably started. That's what it probably means. The woman started to scream and ran away. She returned to the pot with other witnesses, and she returned to the spot with other witnesses, including policemen. Too late. No trace of the object was left, but it seems that the other people saw the craft in flight leaving in red and blue trail. These stories would be amazing and nothing more if it were not for one fact known to students of folklore, the constant feature of one class of legends involving supernatural creatures that the beings came to our world to steal our products, our animals, and even, as we shall see in later chapters, human beings. But for the moment, let us concern ourselves only with the sample gathering behavior of these beings and their request for terrestrial products, and the Algonquin legend embodying all the characteristics of an excellent saucer story. A hunter beholds a basket that comes down from heaven. The basket contains 12 young maidens of ravishing beauty. The man attempts to approach them, but the celestial creatures quickly re-enter the basket, which ascends rapidly out of the sky. However, witnessing the descent of the strange object on another day, the same hunter uses a trick to come close to and succeeds in capturing one of the girls, whom he marries and by whom he has a son. Nothing, unfortunately, can console his wife for loss of the society of her sisters, who have gone away with the flying vehicle. So one day she makes a small basket, according to Heartland. Having entered it with her child, she sang a charm she and her sisters had formerly used, and ascended once more to the stars from whence she had come. She had been back in the heavenly country 2 years when she was told, "Thy son wants to see his father. Going down therefore and to the earth, and fetch thy husband, and tell him to bring us specimens of all the animals he kills." She did so. The hunter ascended with his wife and saw his son, and attended a great feast at which the animals he had brought were served. The Algonquin story offers a complex mixture of themes. Some of them are present in modern-day UFO stories, others derive from traditional concepts, such as the exchange of food, which we have already discussed. New elements are: 1. The desire expressed by the celestial beings to receive specimens of all the animals the hunter kills, and 2. The idea that intermarriage between terrestrials and aerial races is possible. I think it must be aerial races is possible. For some reason there's an L. This later aspect will be examined separately in Chapter 4. So far, we have seen our visitors stealing plants and requesting various items. But have they actually killed animals themselves? Have they taken away cattle? If we are to believe that the stories told by many witnesses, they have. But the interesting fact is that here again we find a trait common to both the UFOnauts and the good people. On page 53, I shall have occasion to quote, in another context, a story describing a crowd of fairies chasing a deer there's no way I missed something there. Chasing a deer on, I did miss, the island of Aramore. The storyteller added that at another time, similar little people chased a horse. And in the same conversation with Walt Wentz, recorded before 1909, the storyteller, Old Patsy, in quotes, told the following story about a man who, quote, who, if still alive, is now in America, where he went several years ago, end quote. In the South Island As night was coming on, a man was giving his cow water at a well, and as he looked on the other side of the wall, he saw many strange people playing hurley. I don't know what hurley is. When they noticed him looking at them, one came up and struck the cow a hard blow, and turning on the man, cut his face and body very badly. The man might not have been so badly off, but he returned to the well after the first encounter and got 4 times as bad a beating. Right? Doing the best reading this. It's not that easy. Especially when they just got like... Anyways. Typos. On November 6, 1957, 12-year-old Everett Clark of Dante's, Tennessee... What's up with this Dante's, Tennessee stuff? Opened a door to let his dog, Frisky, out. As he did, he saw a peculiar object in the field 100 yards or so from the house. He thought he was dreaming and went back inside, and when he called the dog 20 minutes later, he found the object was still there. Frisky was standing near it, along with several dogs from the neighborhood. Also near the object were 2 men and 2 women in ordinary clothing. One of the men made several attempts to catch Frisky. Oh, it's because we read this same one before in Keel's book. Okay. Made attempt to catch Frisky and later another dog, but had to give up for fear of being bitten. Everett saw the strange people who talked between them like German soldiers he had seen in movies walk right into the wall of the object, which then took straight up without sound. It was oblong and of no particular color. And another of the extraordinary coincidences with which the UFO researchers are now becoming familiar. On the same day, another attempt to steal a dog was made, this time in Everettstown, New Jersey, if that's the right way of saying it. While the Clark case had taken place at 6:30 a.m., it was at dusk that John Trasco went outside to feed his dog and saw a brilliant egg-shaped object hovering in front of his barn. In his path, he found a being 3 foot tall with a putty-colored face and large frog-like eyes, who said in broken English, "We are peaceful people. We only want your dog." These stories are crazy, but you know what? It makes sense to me after all the experience I have that none of it. It's all got a glitch to it, right? It's all imperfect. It's all a big mess. It's like they can't quite get their story right. Like somebody is like coming in and out of our realm from their realm, and there's like it's broken up. The message, the projection is just broken up. It's anyways. So it says here, mother coincides name with the low town. There's missing something there. Let's see. Liy, Liy. That'd be lie, I guess. Yet, mother coincidence. The name of the town in the second case is similar to the name of the witness Everett in the first case. It's true. That's another thing I observed as well. That's why I was stumbling with that. Like, is it? But that makes sense. That's what they do. That's what a human being do as well. So, the strange being was told in no uncertain terms to go back where he belonged. He ran away. His machine was seen to take off straight up. Some moments later, Mrs. Trasco is said to have observed an object itself from the house, but not the entity. She also quoted as saying that when her husband tried to grab the creature, he got some green powder on his wrist, but that it washed off. The next day, he noticed the same powder under his fingernails. The ufonaut had been dressed in a green suit with shiny buttons. Green sauce powder. That means plants. A green tan of shattered green tan of shanter-like cap. I have no idea what that means. And gloves with a shiny object on the tip of each. According to Carl Lorenzen. We have already explored several aspects of the behavior attributed in modern and ancient folklore to supernatural beings, whether the creatures come down in flying saucers or musical baskets, whether they come out of the sea or the rock, is irrelevant. What is relevant is what they say and do, the trace that they leave in the human witness, who is the only tangible vehicle of the story. This behavior presents us with a sample of situations and human reactions that trigger our interest, our concern, our laughter. Joe Simonton's pancake story is cute. The tale of fairy food ate inquiring, but ain't intriguing, but difficult to trace. So, okay, let's try this again because it's a T instead of R. John Simonton's pancake story is cute. The tales of fairy food are intriguing but difficult to trace. The rings and the nest are real, but a feeling they inspire is much more romantic than scientific. I guess then the act. What is the TC? Okay, I don't. Then supposed to be there. Then there is the strange being's peculiar, insistent desire to get hold of terrestrial objects, flora and fauna. The story is quoted in this connection verge on the ludicrous. But to pursue the investigation further leads to horror. This is a facet of the phenomena we can no longer ignore. Let's see where we're at there. I want to read this. So I know it makes this long reading, but yeah. All my readings are long. The haunted land. If human reactions to the vision of a UFO are varied, the opposite holds true for animals. Their reaction is unmistakably one of terror. To the well-known question that figures in almost every UFO questionnaire, how was your attention called to the object? One frequently finds the answer, my dog seemed terrified. There was a commotion among the cattle. All the dogs in the neighbors started acting madly. Enough material already exists in documented cases that animal reaction to close exposure to a UFO for an outstanding desertation. I guess it meant to say desertion. That's not a word. For an outstanding disseration. Oh, okay, I get disseration of animal psychology. Hopefully this doesn't carry on like this, because if I had the first 30 pages, it wasn't like that. And I'm finding words that just don't. I have to decipher the anagrammic words. On December 30th, 1966, an American nuclear physicist was driving south with his family along a Louisiana road. The weather was overcast, and it was raining. The time was 8:15 p.m. The witness, who is a professor of physics and does nuclear research, and who as a result is very well qualified witness, had reached a point north of Haynesville when he noticed a pulsating dome of light resembling the glow of a city. Its color went from a dim reddish light to bright orange. At one point, its luminosity rose so much that it became brighter than the car headlight. So intense was the white illumination that two children who were sleeping in the back woke up, and with the physicist's wife observed what followed. The light was emitted by a source that was stationary and below the treetops, at or close to the ground level, some distance into the forest. Concern for his family's safety had made witnesses drive away, but he did make a quick estimate of the amount of energy represented by the light, and turned out to be a fairly impressive source of radiation. Impressive enough to make him return to the location the next day, bearing the scintillometer. That's what it's supposed to be with him. He determined the probable position of the object, which had been about 1 mile plus or minus 0.2. So 0.2 mile. So it's 1 mile plus or minus 0.2 mile. From his car at the closest point, he had made some inquiries in the area. The investigations had two results. First, while walking in the forest, he noticed that for some distance around the spot where the source of light had been, animal life had simply vanished. There were no squirrels, no birds, no insects. As a hunter, he was quite familiar with Louisiana fauna. Second, He gathered several reports by local people who had seen the light and claims by farmers that important loss of cattle had occurred at the same period. Until I heard the physicist's testimony, I had never given much credence to reports of stolen cattle. Cows and horses did run away sometimes and were stolen, and the likelihood that a farmer would try to place the blame on some supernatural agency remains very high even in the 20th century. There is, however, a precedent which cannot be ignored. The whatever Kansas, it's not getting. It's damn. Something Kansas case where a cow was stolen by the pilots of a living object. If the reports if that report were dated from 1966, perhaps it would lost that. Then we go to April 21st, 1897, by one of the most prominent citizens in Kansas, Alexander Hamilton, and an affidavit quoted of several recent UFO books and journalists. Hamilton states that he was awakened by a noise among the cattle and went out with 2 other men, then saw the airship descend gently towards the ground and hover within 50 yards of it. It consisted of a great cigar-shaped portion, possibly 300 feet long, with a carriage underneath. The carriage was made of glass or some other transparent substance, alternating with narrow strips of some material. It was brilliantly lighted within, and everything was plainly visible. It was occupied by 6 of the strangest beings I ever saw. They were jabbering together, but we could not understand a word they said. Upon seeing the witnesses, the pilots of the strange ship turned on some unknown power, and the ship rose about 300 feet above them. It seemed to pause and hover directly over a 2-year-old heifer, which was bawling and jumping and apparently fast in the fence. Going to her, we found a cable about an inch. I might have to see to get this thing frickin'. I'm going to have to reach out to the library, see if I can get a copy of this, because this one is impossible to read. That's one of the problems with archive.org. It's a hit or miss type of thing. If you even can, first of all, if you can find the book, and then if it when it's uploaded, however it is, whether somebody just types it out themselves or Xerox copying it. I don't know. I'm having a hard time reading this book. I can take a break. Another disappointment. Which is about par for course of this whole field of research. Just one, and it's a line of questions and disappointment. Alright, so let's try this again here. It consisted of a great cigar shape. We read that part. They were jabbering together, but we could not understand a word they said. So it says here, it was occupied by 6 the strangest beings I ever saw. They were jabbing together, but we could not understand a word they said. Upon seeing the witnesses, the pilots of the strange ship turned on some unknown power. We read that. It seemed to pause and hover directly over a 2-year-old heifer. We read that. Heifer in the wired. Heifer were tangled in a wired fence. Okay, so let's read this part. And it's okay. It seemed to pause and hover directly over a 2-year-old heifer, which was bawling and jumped apparently fast in the fence. Going to her, we found a cable about a ½ inch thick and thickness, made of some red material, fastened in a slip knot around her neck. One end passing up to the vessel. The heifer tangled in the wire fence. We tried to get it off but could not. So we cut the wire loose and stood in amazement to see the ship, heifer and all, rising slowly, disappearing in the northwest. Hamilton was so frightened he could not sleep that night. Rising early Tuesday, I started out by horse, hoping to find some trace of my cow. This I failed to do, but coming back in the evening, found that Link Thompson had 3 or 4 miles west of Leroy had found the hide and legs and head in his field that day. He, thinking someone had butchered and stolen a stolen beast, had brought the hide to town for identification, but was greatly mystified in not being able to find any tracks in the soft ground. After identifying the hide by my brand, I went home. But every time I would drop to sleep, I would see the cursed thing with its big lights and hideous people. I don't know whether they are devils or angels or what, but we all saw them. My whole family saw the ship. I don't want any more to do with them. One more case and the circle will be closed. It will serve to take a case that has been widely reported and discussed among UFO students, though it has passed practically unnoticed in national press. A horse named Snippy, missing for 2 days, was found September 15, 1967, 6 miles from the main highway near the Great Sand Dune National Monument in Colorado. No flesh remained on the head, neck, and shoulders. The hide was peeled back to expose the skull. The vital organs were gone, according to Snippy's owner, Mrs. Burley Lewis, and her brother, Harry King. When they went to the site, they also observed what seemed to be 15 circular exhaust marks covering an area about 150 yards. A Chico bush Chico bush had been flattened, and close to it there were 6 identical holes, 2 inches wide and 4 inches deep. As the horse lay about a quarter of a mile from a cabin owned by an 87-year-old lady, Mrs. Lewis, and King went to interview her. She said that she had seen a large object pass over her home at rooftop level on the day Snippy was last seen. She added that without her glasses, she had been unable to determine what the object was. Alamosa County Sheriff Ben Phillips declined to visit the site, stating the horse must have been killed by lightning. The pathologist who did go to the site, however, said that this horse was definitely not hit by lightning. A forestry official who checked the area with a Geiger counter found high readings in the vicinity of the burns, but low readings as he went away from them towards the horse. The reactions to the report and its sequels have been fairly typical. The University of Colorado, where Dr. Condon was conducting a $500,000 study of UFOs for the U.S. Air Force, sent someone to take a look at what was left of Snippy, who had been dead for a month. I find nothing unusual about the death of the horse, he said. And Ray Palmer's magazine Flying Saucers, an American ufologist, asked in anger, he finds nothing unusual? Perhaps the razor-sharp, clean incisions around the horse's neck was the work of a mountain lion. The huge circular indentations and several smaller ones, was that a monstrously flat, fine bird with babies, all suffering with radiation sickness and 4 legs? I have no idea what I just read there. The newsletter published by the UFO Investigating Committee in Sydney, Australia, drew a most interesting parallel between the Snippy case and a more recent report from Canada. Terry Goodmurphy of North Livingston, Ontario, age 20, and his friend Stephen Griffin, 19, were driving west on Highway 17 at about 9:30 p.m. on November 5th, 1967, 2 months after Snippy's death. As they neared the top of Maple Ridge Hill, they saw an orange glow in the sky and thought it was caused by a fire. They stopped to watch and saw it was moving. They drove on again about 3/4 of a mile, and then saw the object more clearly as it appeared to maneuver at altitude of about 100 feet. The 2 boys became frightened and turned around, notified Ontario Provincial Police. Nothing was to be seen when the police investigated. However, that same evening, something happened at the Lome Wolf in Guinness. So Lome Wolgineth Gnuth. The wall. I try this again. Lome Wolgineth farm nearby Salisbury. This is like very hard for me to. On the following morning, when a standard-bred mare, Susie, another horse, usually came in from the pasture. Only the second horse came to the barn, and a long cut was noticed on his neck. Susie was not there. It was only after several hours of searching that her owners found her lying dead with her throat and jugular vein cut. Perhaps I have now succeeded in invoking in the reader's mind a new awareness, the suggestion of a possible parallel between the rumors of today and beliefs that were held by our ancestors, beliefs of stupendous flights with mysterious supermen, of rings where magic lingered, of dwarfish races haunting the land purposefully. In the second chapter, I have limited the argument to the mere juxtaposition of modern and older beliefs. The faint suspicious of a giant mystery. So the faint supposition of a giant mystery, much larger than our current preoccupation with life on other planets, much deeper than housewives' reports of zigzagging lights. Perhaps we can resolve the point by trying to understand what these tales, these myths, these legends are doing to us. What images are they designed to convey? What hidden needs are they fulfilling? If this is a fabrication, why should it be so absurd? Are there precedents in history? Could imagination be a strong force to shape the actions of men? Then its expression of dogmas in political structures, in established churches, in armies. If so, could this force be used? It is being used. Is it being used? Is there a science of deception at work here on a grand scale, or could the human mind generate its own phantoms in a formidable collective edification of worldwide mythologies? Is a natural force at work here? Man's imagination, like every known power, works by fixed laws. These words by Hartland, written in 1891, offer a clue. Yes, there is a deep undercurrent to be discovered and mapped behind these seemingly absurd stories. Emerging actions of the underlying pattern have been discovered and mapped in ages past by long-dead scholars. Today we have the unique opportunity to witness the reappearance of this current out in the open, colored naturally with our new human biases, our preoccupation with science, our longing for a promised land of other planets. A new mythology was needed to bring this stupendous gap, to bridge this stupendous gap beyond the meaningless present. They provide it, but who are they? Real beings, or the ghost of our own ridiculous petty dreams? They spoke to us in smooth English. They did not speak to our scientists. They did not send sophisticated signals and uniquely decipherable codes, as alien beings are supposed to do if they read Walter Sullivan, as any alien being should be for daring to penetrate our solar system. No, they picked Gary Wilcox instead, and Joe Simonton, and Maurice Massey. What did they say? And that they were from Mars, that they were our neighbors, and above all, that they were superior to us, that we must obey them, and that they are good. Go to Valensole and ask Macy. He will tell you perhaps how puzzled he was when suddenly, without warning, he felt inside himself a warm, comforting feeling how good they were, our good neighbors, the good people. They took a great interest in the affairs of men, and they always stood for justice and right. They could appear in different forms. With them, Joe Simonton exchanged food. So in times gone by, did Irishmen who talked to similar beings. In those days, too, they were called the good people, and in Scotland, the good neighbors. The Schley math. I don't know if I'm saying that right. What did they say then? We are far superior to you. We could cut off half the humans something. We could cut off half the human whatever. It does all make sense. These were the facts we have missed, without which we this is wearing me out for trying to read it this way. The last 3 books I've read from archives.org were much easier. This one's a bitch. It does all make sense. These were the facts we have missed, without which we could never piece the UFO jigsaw together. Priests and scholars left books about the legends of their time concerning these beings. These books had been found, collected, and studied. They contain no solutions, only elements of great puzzlement. But this puzzlement was documented. Together, these stories presented a coherent picture of the appearance, the organization, and the methods of our strange visitors. The appearance was docs with surprise. Docs, this surprises you. Exactly that of today's UFO pilots. The methods were the same. There was a sudden vision of brilliant houses at night, houses that could often fly, that contained peculiar lamps and radiated lights that needed no fuel. The creatures could paralyze their witnesses and translate them through time. They hunted animals and took away people. They organized. Their organization had a name, the Secret Commonwealth, and the Magic Casement, a book edited by Alfred Noyes about 1910. I find this little poem by William Allingham, which I would like all UFOologists to learn as a tribute to Joe Simonton. Up the Erie Mountains, down the rushy glen, We daren't go hunting for fear of little men. We folk, good folk, trooping all together, green jacket and red cap, and white owl's feathers. Down along the rocky shore, some make their home. They live on crispy pancakes of yellow tide foam. Some in the reeds of the Black Mountain Lake, with frogs for their watchdogs all night awake. The Secret Commonwealth. And the reading for this. So we're getting there slowly. This is brutal, man. I'm gonna see if my public library has this and get the book from them and read it that way. But then it's gonna even be more difficult at times because I won't be able to blow it up. Maybe just gonna have to deal with the brutality. Maybe it will start to get better. It looks like it might possibly get better. Just get through this portion, and it's the Secret Commonwealth. Be next.
You're going to try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even start. If you're going to try, go all the way. This could mean losing girlfriends, wives, relatives, jobs, and maybe your mind.
Don't know, you should take it slow. Are you searching?